Hello. Okay, so my microphone decided to unplug itself for a hot second there. I fiddled with it 2 seconds ago and I was like, oh, it looks like it's working fine. And then, yeah, I fiddled with it too much, evidently. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I will welcome everybody again, since I did before, but you couldn't hear me. Welcome, Normal Size Phantom. Welcome, Jake 13th. Welcome, Shoes. Welcome, Void. Void, for your friend, they need to go into the buttons and widgets section of their Kofi, and they will find a stream alerts widget, and that is how they can hook it up like mine is. That's the way I've done it. So there's some learnings for you. Hello, Noka-chan. Hello, Luke. Welcome, and Lucas. Welcome, everybody. That is also a big coincidence, Normal Size Phantom, that you are also reading Frankenstein at the moment. I hope that you're not at least 68% of the way through, so I don't spoil it for you. Not that it would be hard to spoil 100 or so. A very old book. A very, very old book. When was it? Goodbye. Don't leave. No, goodbye. You're welcome. I'm good. I always sit down to start streaming, I'm like, oh, I'm sleepy. And then I start streaming, I'm like, oh, suddenly I have energy. We'll see how long that energy lasts. Hopefully we can at least get a chunk through this book again. Because, good lord, is it taking... I want to finish this book by Christmas, hopefully. But we're nearly 70% of the way through. You've read it a few times already. You're actually reading the 1818 text now. Ooh, very cool. Good to know I'm not spoiling for you as well. Wonderful. And don't spoil for me, that's for sure too. I obviously vaguely know of Frankenstein, but it's been very fascinating to read the original. I knew the things because you know how he's always portrayed as a bit of a zombie in mainstream media. I knew that wasn't real. I knew he was an eloquent baby. But it's been very interesting so far. So I will give a quick summary for what we've done so far. So Victor Frankenstein grew up nice and normal, kind of got into strange science, went to school, got laughed at for strange science, but then got into actual science. And then, for some reason, yada-yada'd his way into making a person because he thought he could. And like the scientists of Jurassic Park, he never thought if he should. He just did it anyway. And then when he made the thing, he was like, holy crap, it's so ugly. Oh no, what did I make? Woe is me. And he freaked out. And his poor baby just kind of had to figure out the world by himself. He was sick and then had PTSD and all sorts of stuff, but his bestie came along and he recovered. Then he went home only to find his younger brother had been murdered, and he was convinced because he'd saw his monster around that it was his monster. And a family friend went down for the murder and also got murdered for the murder. Executed, not murdered for the murder, executed. Then he went in to seclude himself in the mountains and he found his monster, who was like, you will fucking listen to me. You are the only one who will not freak out the moment I appear. So he was, the eloquent baby monster told him about how his life has been going so far and how he learned speech and human things from a bunch of cottagers that he was hiding with, and was then like, okay, so here's the deal. I'm really mad at humanity because humanity hates me for my existence, and that's your fault, Daddy-o. So if you could make me a waifu, I will go into hiding with my waifu and you'll never hear from me again. Took some convincing, but Frankenstein went with it. So then Frankenstein went home and he kept kind of procrastinating making this waifu because he already freaked out enough making the first one. And then eventually was like, yeah, sure, I'll just go on a trip to England. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So he's gone on a trip to England, and then he's eventually made it to Scotland, and now he's split off from his friend who came with him, the bestie from before. He came with him too. Best character. And, hello B12, welcome. He is having a rough week. Did I misspell the title? Did I misspell waifu? It is waifu, Wi-Fi, same thing. It has an A in it, doesn't it? It's Waifu. I think I spelled it right on the tweet. But anyway. Yes, so now he's off to build a waifu. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. That is about where we're up to. Let me have some tea. And we shall continue with the plot. Off topic, but have you seen Ken Bragan's film adaptation in the 90s? I really like it. No, I don't think I've actually ever seen a Frankenstein film proper. I would be curious to see one after reading it, especially. And I think while I was... You don't see any plot though, Brenny. Well, we're gonna do plot. I have my Chromebook, by the way. I have to buy Minecraft a second time, though. I'm not sure if I can play online on the Chromebook. I got Twitch figured out, though. Gonna need an actual laptop. Yeah, you should be... I think you should be alright to play Minecraft on the Chromebook. Should be good. Hopefully see you tomorrow on that. But anyway, shall we begin? Yes. I will be reading it in a somewhat posher British accent than usual, because the character that started this was Nulak, a somewhat of an alter ego of mine, a visitor from another dimension that possessed my body for a time. So I'll be reading it in the style of her. She had to go home, unfortunately, for December, so I had to finish off the book for her. You know, the monster wants love. And thus, the monster wants a wife. But maybe the monster just needs love from his father! He does. With this resolution, I traversed the Northern Highlands and fixed on one of the most remotest of the Orkneys as the scene of my labours. It was a place fitted for such work, hardly being more than a rock whose high sides were continually beaten upon by the waves. The soil was barren, scarcely affording pasture for a few miserable cows, and oatmeal for its inhabitants, which consisted of 5 persons whom gaunt and scraggy limbs gave tokens of their miserable fare. No, Luke, you're cool. No, you're cool. I'm not cool. You're cool. Vegetables and bread when they indulged in such luxuries, and even fresh water was to be procured from the mainland, which was about 5 miles distance. On the whole island there were but 3 miserable huts, and one of these was vacant when I arrived. This I hired. It contained but 2 rooms, and these exhibited all the squalidness of the most miserable penury. The thatch had fallen in, the walls were unplastered, and the door was off its hinges. I ordered it to be repaired, brought some furniture, and took possession. An incident which would doubtless have occasioned some surprise, had not all sense of the cottagers been bemused by want of squalid poverty. As it was, I lived ungazed at and unmolested, hardly thanks for the pittance of food and clothing which I gave. So much does suffering blunt even the coarsest sensation of men. In this retreat I devoted the morning to labour, but in the evening, when the weather permitted, I walked on the stony beach of the sea to listen to the waves as they roared and dashed at my feet. It was a monotonous yet ever-changing scene. I thought of Switzerland. It was far different from these desolate and appalling landscapes. Its hills are covered with vines, and its cottages are scattered thickly in the plains. Its fair lakes reflect blue and gentle sky, and when troubled by the winds, their tumult is but as the play of a living infant when compared to the roaring of the giant ocean. Oh, Lucas, if you paid attention to the text on screen, you'd probably notice I make a lot of mistakes. A lot of mistakes. In this manner, I distributed my occupations when I first arrived, but as I proceeded in my labour, it became every day more horrible and irksome to me. Sometimes I could not prevail on myself to enter my laboratory for several days, and at other times I toiled day and night in order to complete my work. I have tea. You should go get tea. I by all means, get tea. Mine is a decaf tea right now, though, because it's very close to bedtime. Several days I toiled day and night in order to complete my work. It was, indeed, a filthy process in which I was engaged. During my first experiment, a kind of enthused frenzy had blinded me to the horror of my employment. May I ask what you're reading this off? I am literally reading the same thing that I'm showing on the screen. It is, it's a version I downloaded from a wonderful website called Project Gutenberg. So it's an ebook. Is the book progress displayed anywhere? You can see it very small in the bottom corner of the window. But I haven't got an actual big display like I normally do. I could put one in if you want, though. It might take me a hot second, but I can do it. It is an ebook! You can't see it? It's down here. It's right next to me here. See? Here. No, there's a here. I'm pointing with my ear. There. It's very small though, so I don't blame you for not being able to read it. Yeah, I came out the box just for that. It's very comfortable in here. I came out just to show you a thing. Aren't you lucky? It's funny. The blind me to the horror of my employment. My mind was intensely fixed on the consummation of my labour, but my eyes were shut to the horror of my proceedings. But now I went into it in cold blood, and my heart often sickened at the work of my hands. I don't have glasses like you, Brenny. Can I get glasses much so I can read it? I don't think I could give out glasses as much. Sunglasses, maybe, though. We could do sunglasses, although I don't think that would help you. Thus situated, employed in the most detestable occupation, immersed in a solitude where nothing could, for an instant, call my attention from the actual scene in which I was engaged, my spirits became unequal. I grew restless and nervous. Every moment I feared to meet my persecutor. Sometimes I sat with my eyes fixed on the ground, fearing to raise them lest they should encounter the object which I so much dreaded to behold. I feared to wander from the sight of my fellow creatures, lest when alone he should come to claim his companion. Need sunglasses because they're too cool to read. Oh, heck yeah. Can you get a gift box as much? With nothing in it? Just a box? I don't know. I have to look into it. In the meantime, I worked on and my labour was considerably advanced. I looked towards its completion with tumultuous and eager hope, which I dared not trust myself to question, but which was intermixed with obscure forebodings of evil that made my heart sicken in my bosom. A heater box. I don't think I can do a heater box. That's way too complicated. Chapter 20! I sat one evening in my laboratory. The sun had set and the moon was just rising from the sea. I had not sufficient light for my employment, and I remained idle, in pause of consideration of whether I should leave my labour for the night, or hasten its conclusion by an unremitting attention to it. As I sat, a train of reflection occurred to me which led me to consider the effects of what I was now doing. 3 years before, I was engaged in the same manner, and had created a fiend whose unparalleled barbarity had desolated my heart and filled it forever with the bitterest remorse. I was now about to form another being, of whose dispositions I was alike ignorant. She might become 10,000s more malignant than her mate, and delight for its own sake in murder and wretchedness. He had sworn to quit the neighbourhood of man, and hide himself in deserts, but she had not. And she, who in all probability was to become a thinking and reasoning animal, might refuse to comply with a pact made before her creation. And they might even hate each other. The creature who already lived loathed his own deformity, and might not conceive a greater abhorrence for it when it came before his eyes in the female form. She also might turn with disgust from him to the superior beauty of man. She might quit him, and he be again alone, exacerbated by the fresh provocation of being deserted by one of his own species. English not being my first language is my understanding of the test rather difficult. I don't blame you. If you want any clarifications on anything, please feel free to ask. I am happy to unfluff it for you. Not layman's term, that sounds really insulting actually, but make it easier for someone who's multilingual, I guess. And the dating scene is rough even for the resurrected. Correct. Well, it's not just his opinion. Literally everyone who's seen the monster has been instantly afraid of him. He has done nothing to earn that. It's literally just been on his looks. So superior beauty of man is, unfortunately not an opinion, but a fact. Unless you're into horrifically kind of half-decayed people. Even if they were to leave Europe and inhabit the deserts of the world, yet one of the first results of those sympathies for which this demon thirsted would be children, and a race of devils would be propagated upon the earth, who might make the very existence of the species of man a condition precarious and full of terror. I had a right, for my own benefit, to inflict this curse upon everlasting generations. I had before been moved by the sophisms of the being I had created. I had been struck senseless by his fiendish threats, but now, for the first time, the wickedness of my promise burst upon me. I shuddered to think that future ages might curse me as their pest, whose selfishness had not hesitated to buy its own peace at the price, perhaps, of the existence of the whole human race. Okay, I thought he meant man as in dude, not man as in... Man as in human, indubitably. Excuse me while I glitch out, because my mug is too big and it just very much confuses my camera. But the mug has to be big for more tea, you know, it's very important. I trembled, my heart failed within me. When, on looking up, I saw the light of the moon, the demon at its casement. A ghastly grin wrinkled his lips as he gazed on me, where I sat fulfilling the task which he had allotted to me. I thought you were dancing. Those are some moves, definitely. Yes, he had followed me into my travels. He had loitered in forests, hid himself in caves, or taken refuge in wide and deserted heaths, and he now came to mark my progress and claim the fulfillment of my promise. You drink from a mug? I drink from the biggest glass I can find. I don't know, it feels weird to have tea in a glass. That's very strange. I'd have other drinks in a glass, but tea's in a mug. But tea in a big old mug. As I looked on him, his countenance expressed the utmost extent of malice and treachery. I thought, with a sensation of madness on my promise, of creating another like him, and trembling with passion, tore to pieces the thing which I was engaged. The wretch saw me destroy the creature on whose future existence he depended for happiness, and with a howl of devilish despair and revenge, withdrew. I left the room, and locking the door, made a solemn vow in my own heart never to resume my labours. And then, with trembling steps, I sought my own apartment. I was alone. None were near me to dissipate the gloom and relieve me from the sickening oppression of the most terrible reveries. Ah, he broke the waifu! He broke the waifu! Meaning, in my high school years, I drank coffee out of my stepfather's beer glass. This made him kind of mad when I did this. Like a whole ass pint of coffee. God damn, Void. Several hours passed, and I remained near my window, gazing on the sea. It was almost motionless, for the winds were hushed, and all nature reposed under the eye of the quiet moon. A few fishing vessels alone speckled the water, and now and then gentle breeze wafted the sound of voices as the fishermen called to one another. I felt the silence. Although I was hardly conscious of its extreme profundity, until my ear was suddenly arrested by the paddling of oars near the shore. A person landed close to my house. You also tried drinking coffee out of a 2-liter soda bottle. I hope you let the coffee cool down, because I may or may not have destroyed a water bottle like that. It wasn't coffee, for the record, but I was trying to make a giant tea in a water bottle, but because the tea was too warm, the water bottle kind of melted. And it just ended up this shriveled little thing. Oh. My favorite high school coffee experiment was taking freshly brewed coffee and using it as water to red brew coffee. Was deadly strong and I love it. God damn. Yes, please, let the coffee cool. You let the coffee cool. I brought it to school, so I did let it cool down. Wonderful. Don't destroy things with hot things like I did. Rebrew. Oh, so you made coffee, and then rather than boiling fresh water, you used the coffee to make another coffee. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. You may as well just added more coffee to your actual coffee. What was the point? Coffee science. Coffee science. Don't destroy the inside of your neck. That's true. Please don't put coffee in the microwave. It stings your tongue. Only if you put it in there too long. I don't like coffee either, to be honest. But these stories of wild coffee stories are kind of funny. I much prefer a cup of tea. I had an accidental coffee this week, actually. I went into a shop and I wanted to order a mint hot chocolate, but they misheard me and they made me a mint mocha and I didn't want to cause any trouble. So I just drank the mocha, even though I don't like coffee. Luckily, because it was mint and chocolatey, I lived with it, but I don't like it. How do you like or dislike it? I drink it and I dislike the flavor. That is how I dislike it. Like, I drank the mocha because it was at least, you know, chocolatey. But if you gave me, like, an actual cup of coffee, I'd be like, bleh. I hate coffee-flavored things, too. It's just, bleh. Give me tea. Give me tea any day. It's not coffee. All the you Americans can keep your coffee. Put more sugar in it and if you just... No, the sugar doesn't help. If I can taste even a little bit of coffee, I don't like it. I don't like coffee. You like coffee cake? Fair dues. I'm not a fan of coffee cake either. Anything coffee flavored. Nope. No, but yeah, sugar. Coffee ice cream? No, it's coffee flavored. It's gross. No coffee. No coffee anywhere near my things. Like, if someone gives me something coffee flavored and I don't want to be rude, I will deal with it, but I will avoid it at all costs otherwise. Several hours passed and I remained near my window, gazing on the sea. It was almost motionless, for the winds were hushed, and all nature No, did I not read this already? Yes, I read this. Until my ear was suddenly arrested by a person landed near my house. In a few minutes after I heard the creaking of my door, as if someone endeavoured to open it softly. I trembled from head to foot. I felt the presentiment of who it was, and wished to rouse one of the peasants who dwelt in a cottage not far from mine. But I was overcome with a sensation of helplessness, so often felt in frightful dreams, when you in vain endeavoured to fly from impending danger and was rooted to the spot. Hello, Mr. Max, welcome. Presently I heard the sound of footsteps along the passage. The door opened, and the wretch whom I dreaded appeared. Shutting the door, he approached me, and said in a smothered voice. So what you've missed, Mr. Max, is that Victor said that he would make a waifu for the monster, but he realised that this may not be a good idea, and he destroyed what he'd made of the waifu already. And the monster saw him do it, so now the monster's being like, bro, I said I'd murder all your family if you didn't do this. No worries, Mr. Max, you be as early or as late as you want. There was once a guy in a visual novel who thought if you put creamer and sugar in coffee, it's not coffee anymore. So if I put sugar, spice, milk, and everything nice in tea, does that make it not tea? No! You can customize your tea how you want. I mean, some tea you put in lemon, some tea you put in honey. Yeah, tea is much more flexible than coffee. You can come in, Miss Max. Come in. Make yourself comfortable. Storytime has not finished. Victor Frankenstein, waifu smasher. Correct. You have destroyed the work which you began. What is it that you intend? You dare not break your promise. I have endured toil and misery. I left Switzerland with you. I crept along the shores of the Rhine, among its willowed islands, and over the summits of its hills. I have dwelt many months in the hearths of England, and among the deserts of Scotland. I have endured incalculable fatigue and cold and hunger. Do you dare destroy my hopes? Yeah, I could even put pineapple on pizza in tea, brain. No, not. It's not that customizable. It's not that customizable. If you put coffee and tea in a cup at the same time, will it be coffee or tea? It will be an ungodly abomination. Wouldn't that just make it coffee? Wait, where'd the part where he kills it? Yeah, so he ripped the waifu apart and the monster saw. And now the monster's like, what, bro? Why did you do that, bro? Begone! I do not break my promise. I do break my promise. Never will I create another like yourself, equal in deformity and wickedness. Slave, I before reasoned with you, but you have proven yourself unworthy of my condensation. Remember that I have power. You believe yourself miserable, but I can make you so wretched that the light of day will be hateful to you. You are my creator, but I am your master. Obey. The hour of my irresolution is past, and the period of your power is arrived. Your threats cannot move me to do an act of wickedness, but they confirm me in a determination of not creating you a companion in vice. I shall, in cold blood, set loose upon the earth a demon whose delight is in death and wretchedness. Begone! I am firm, and your words will only exacerbate my rage. The monster saw my determination in my face, and gnashed his teeth in the impotence of anger. Shall each man, he cried, find a wife for his bosom, and each beast have a mate, and I be alone? I had feelings of affection, and they were requited by destitution and scorn. Man, you may hate, but beware. Your hours will pass in dread and misery, and soon the bolt will fall which must ravish from your happiness forever. Are you to be happy while I grovel in the intensity of wretchedness? You can blast my other passions, but revenge remains revenge, henceforth dearer than light or food. I may die, but first you, my tyrant and tormentor, shall curse the sun that gazes on your misery. Beware, for I am fearless, and therefore powerful. I will watch with wildness of a snake, that I may sting with its venom. Man, you shall repent the injuries you inflict. Eventually I'm going to start showing off abominations to the Discord. Interesting fact, I was once watching an AR Tango 2 stream, and a food abomination was shown on the screen, and I said, you know what, I think I can make that. Why would you want to make food abominations? I feel like Victor could have brought across his reason in a more calm and reasonable manner. He probably could, but he's too angry and generally upset. It is such a stupid excuse coming from Victor. No, I won't make her because I promised myself so. He doesn't want to make her because he's terrified of basically her becoming a horrible murderous monster. You know, like him. He's not a horrible murderous monster. He's going to become that, though. Devil, cease! I do not poison the air with these sounds of malice. I have declared my resolution to you. I am no coward to bend beneath words. Leave me. I am inexorable. It is well. I go. But remember, I shall be with you on your wedding night. I started forward and exclaimed, Villain! Before you sign my death warrant, be sure that you are yourself safe. I would have seized him, but he eluded me and quitted the house with precipitation. In a few moments I saw him in his boat, which shot across the waters with an arrowy swiftness, and was soon lost amidst the waves. Oh Lord, he gonna eat all the wedding cake. You will see me at your wedding, showing everyone your embarrassing photographs. All was silent again, but his words rang in my ears. I burned with rage to pursue the murderer of my peace and precipitate him into the ocean. I walked up and down my room hastily and perturbed, while my imagination conjured up 1,000 images to torment and sting me. Why I had not followed him and closed with him in mortal strife, but I had suffered him to depart, and he was directed his course towards the mainland. I shuddered to think who might be the next victim, sacrificed to his insatiate revenge. And then I thought again of his words. I will be with you on your wedding night. Tea-flavored wedding cake, that'd be great. If Monster is so smart, why won't he dedicate his time to learn how Frankenstein made him? Honestly, that's the only thing I think he probably could have, because he had the journal. He knows how he was made. But I guess it's too big brain for him. Maybe he's not that smart. I imagine the creature speaking with Christopher Lee voice. Good choice. That, then, was the period fixed for the fulfillment of my destiny. In that hour I should die, and at once satisfy and extinguish his malice. The prospect did not move me to fear, yet when I thought of my beloved Elizabeth, of her tears and endless sorrow when she should find her lover so barbarously snatched from her, tears, the first I had shed for many months, streamed from my eyes. I resolved not to fall before my enemy without a bitter struggle. The night passed away, and the sun rose from the ocean. My feelings became calmer, if it may be called calmness when the violent rage sinks into the depths of despair. I left the house, the horrid scene of the last night's consternation, and walked on the beach of the sea, which I almost regarded as an indisputable barrier between me and my fellow creatures. Nay, a wish that such should prove the fact stole across me. I desired that I might pass my life on that barren rock, wearily, it is true, but uninterrupted by any sudden shock of misery. If I returned, it was to be sacrificed or to see those whom I most loved die under the grasp of the demon whom I had myself created. I walked about the isle like a restless spectre, separated from all it loved and miserable in the separation. When it became noon, the sun rose higher. I lay down on the grass and was overpowered by a deep sleep. I had been awake the whole of the preceding night. My nerves were agitated, and my eyes inflamed by watching and misery. The sleep into which I now sank refreshed me, and when I awoke I again felt as if I belonged to a race of human beings like myself, and I began to reflect upon what had passed with greater composure. Yet still the words of the fiend rang in my ears like a death knell. They appeared like a dream, yet distinct and oppressive as reality. The sun had far descended, and I still sat on the shore, satisfying my appetite, which had become ravenous with an oaten cake. When I saw a fishing boat land close to me, one of the men brought me a packet. It contained letters from Geneva, and one from Clerval, entreating me to join him. He said that he was wearing away his time fruitlessly where he was, that letters from the friends he had formed in London desired his return, to complete the negotiation they had entered into for his Indian enterprise. He could not any longer delay his departure, but as his journey to London might be followed, even sooner than he now conjectured, by his longer voyage, he entreated me to bestow as much of my society on him as I could spare. He besought me, therefore, to leave my solitary isle and meet him at Perth, that we might proceed southwards together. This letter, in a degree, recalled me to life, and determined to quit my island at the expiration of 2 days. Yet before I departed there was a task to perform, on which I shuddered to reflect. I must pack up my chemical instruments, and for that purpose I must enter the room which had been the scene of my odious work. And I must handle those utensils, the sight of which was sickening to me. The next morning at daybreak, I summoned sufficient courage and unlocked the door of my laboratory. The remains of the half-finished creature whom I had destroyed lay scattered on the floor. I almost felt as if I had mangled the living flesh of a human being. You did! You did! You 100% did! Wait, so Victor made Frank, and Frank got treated like a monster by other people. How did Frank get separated from Victor? Did Victor abandon? Victor 100% abandoned him. He, fled his laboratory pretty much as soon as he was born, because he was so freaked out about what he made. You gonna lurk, Luke? Okay, have a nice little lurk. You chill out. Have a nice chill. Yeah. I paused to collect myself and then entered the chamber. I'm a genius! Oh no, yeah, that's exactly what happened. With trembling hand, I conveyed the instruments out of the room, but I reflected that I ought not to leave the relics of my work to excite the horror and suspicion of the peasants. And I accordingly put them into a basket, with a great quantity of stones, and lay them up, determined to throw them into the sea that very night. And in the meantime I sat upon the beach, employed in cleaning and arranging my chemical apparatus. Why is it pronounced laboratory, not laboratory? It's laboratory. Laboratory is technically how it's done. We slanged it up. As we do with language and human beingness, we slanged it up. Now it's a laboratory. Laboratory. No, now I've said it too many times. Interesting. Well, Victor realized that he created a monster, not a moment when he reanimated a corpse, when he deceived him by telling him he will create a wife. Yeah, I don't know if he will. I don't know if he will. Nothing could be more complete than the alteration that had taken place in my feelings since the night of the appearance of the demon. I had before regarded my promise with gloomy despair, as a thing that will, whatever the consequences, must be fulfilled. But I now felt as if a film had been taken from before my eyes, and that I, for the first time, saw clearly. The idea of renewing my labours did not for one instant occur to me. The threat I had heard weighed on my thoughts, but I did not reflect that a voluntary act of mine could avert it. I had resolved in my own mind to create another like that fiend I had first made would be an act of the barest and most atrocious selfishness, that I banished from my mind every thought that I could lead to a different conclusion. Between 2 and 3 in the morning, the moon rose, and then I, putting my basket aboard a little skiff, sailed out 4 miles from the shore. The scene was perfectly solitary. A few boats were returning towards the land, but I sailed away from them. I felt as if I was about the commission of a dreadful crime, and avoided the shuddering anxiety any encounter with my fellow creatures. At one time the moon, which had before been clear, was suddenly overspread by a thick cloud, and I took advantage of the moment of darkness, and cast my basket into the sea. Frankenstein, hey, I'm gonna go grab several decomposing humans and make an abomination. Also Frankenstein, oh no, I'm scared of abomination. That is exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. For someone so smart, he is so very dumb. Technically, he didn't deceive Frank because he did the first time intend to create the wife. But at the end of the day, he still broke the promise. Yeah, true. My face when I create an abomination. My face when I remember the abomination's Ricky. Perfect. I think he had an inspiration moment and a realization moment after that. That is it. I listened to the gurgling sound as it sank, then sailed away from the spot. The sky became clouded, but the air was pure, although chilled by the northeast breeze that was then rising. But it refreshed me and filled me with such agreeable sensations that I resolved to prolong my stay on the water, and fix the rudder in a direct position, stretched myself at the bottom of the boat. Clouds hid the moon. Everything was obscure, and I heard only the sound of the boat as its keel cut through the waves. The murmur lulled me, and in a short time I slept soundly. I do not know how long I remained in this situation, but when I awoke, I found that the sun had already mounted considerably. The wind was high, and the waves continually threatened the safety of my little skiff. I found that the wind was northeast, and must have driven me far from the coast from which I had embarked. I endeavoured to change my course, but quickly found that if I again made an attempt, the boat would instantly be filled with water. Thus situated, my only resource was to drive before the wind. I confess that I felt a few sensations of terror. I had no compass with me, and was so slenderly acquainted with the geography of this part of the world that the sun was little benefit to me. I might be driven into the wide Atlantic, and feel all the tortures of starvation, or be swallowed up by the immeasurable waters that roared and buffeted around me. I had already been out many hours, and felt the torment of burning thirst, a prelude to my other sufferings. I looked on the heavens, which were covered by the clouds that flew before the wind, only to be replaced by others. I looked upon the sea. It was to be my grave. "Fiend!" I exclaimed, "your task is already fulfilled." I thought of Elizabeth, of my father, and of Clerval, all left behind, on whom the monster might satisfy his sanguinary and merciless passions. This idea plunged me into so despairing and frightful that even now, when the scene is on the point of closing before me forever, I shudder to reflect on it. Frankie did murder a child. Admittedly, the child said some nasty things for him, but Frankie has already murdered a child at this point. We do need to remember that. So, Naka-chan, Frankie may have done 1 or 2 things wrong. But no one's perfect. Yep, Frankenstein's not the monster. Also, Victor escaped from his creation on a ship on water because he can't swim and be stealthy at the same time. True. Frankenstein is human, that's why I call the Green Man monster. Interesting. What's the origin of the word monster? I don't know. We're probably looking at some Latin because, you know, Western. Etymology of Let's have a quick look. Etymology online. We want to search the word monster. Yeah. Malformed. So monstre, a malformed animal, creature afflicted with a bird. It comes from Old French. And means malformed animal or human creature afflicted with a birth defect, basically. Because that's just how good and absolutely ableist we were back in the day. Humanity. And we'll probably nobody perfect. You murdered a child, no one's perfect. Exactly. Probably from some human doing atrocious things like what Bernie did while dressed up as a witch and pretending to be a person named New Luck. We don't talk about what she did. Yeah, you don't talk about that. We don't talk about what New Luck is. New Luck's a terrible person. Some hours passed thus, but by degrees the sun declined towards the horizon. The wind died away into a gentle breeze, and the sea became free from breakers. But these gave place to a heavy swell. I felt sick and hardly able to hold the rudder, when suddenly I saw a line of high land towards the south. Almost spent as I was by fatigue and the dreadful suspense I endured for several hours, this sudden certainty of life rushed like a flood of warm joy to my heart, and tears gushed from my eyes. How mutable are our feelings, and how strange is that clinging love we have of life, even in the excess of misery. I constructed another sail with part of my dress, and eagerly steered my course towards the land. It had a wild and rocky appearance, but as I approached nearer, I easily perceived the traces of cultivation. I saw vessels near the shore and found myself suddenly transported back to the neighbourhood of civilized man. I carefully traced the windings of the land and hailed a steeple which I at length saw issuing from behind a small promontory. As I was in a state of extreme delirium, I resolved to sail directly towards the town, as a place where I could most easily procure nourishment. Fortunately, I had money with me. As I turned to the promontory, I'm saying that wrong probably, but you know. I perceived a small, neat town and a good harbour, which I entered, my heart bounding with joy at the unexpected escape. I wonder if she was able to leave the library while possessing you. Can I make the Forbidden Library law suggestions, like in terms of what you could write up later? By all means, suggest stuff. I don't think she could leave the library with my body, though, because that would technically constitute me leaving the library, and I'm not allowed to leave the library. Except for work. Because I still have to pay for internet. Because the Guardian's a bitch. As I was occupied in fixing the boat and arranging the sails, several people crowded towards the spot. They seemed much surprised at my appearance, but instead of offering me any assistance, whispered together with gestures that, at any other time, might have produced me a slight sensation of alarm. As it was, I merely remarked that they spoke English, and therefore addressed them in that language. "My good friends," said I, "will you be so kind as to tell me the name of this town, and inform me where I am?" Okay, so I'm gonna guess... No, I don't know. I don't think I can really guess. I don't really know Scottish Islands very well. I think Oban, maybe? Who knows? Oh, a minute. I need to blow my nose. Okay. Does the guy have a name? I named them Fort, and they were pretty okay with that. Or would it really be you? You were the Pac-Man blob. No, yeah, it's still me. I can't be me without a body. Like, I can be a soul, but, you know, the soul kind of needs a container, and that container is still me. It's still part of me. Your body's still a part of you. Body, soul, you know, body, soul, mind, heart, that sort of thing. They're all parts of me and make up me. And I was not whole when I was my little squishy Pac-Man self. "You will know soon enough," replied a man with a hoarse voice. "Maybe you are come to a place that will not prove much to your taste, but you will not be consulted as to your quarters, I promise you." I was exceedingly surprised on receiving so rude an answer from a stranger, and I was so disconcerted on perceiving the frowning and angry countenances of his companions. "Why do you answer me so roughly?" I replied. "Surely it is not a custom of Englishmen to receive strangers so inhospitably." "I do not know," said the man. "Of what custom of the... oh god, yeah, he's an island. Okay, that makes sense." I thought he maybe went further north, but nah, he's an island, so no wonder they're being a bit mean to him. They don't like the British. They don't really like many people, to be fair. If you were cloned, were all of your have souls, or you were the original? If you were cloned, were all of you... So, if I was cloned, would my clone have a soul? Technically, yes, if it was a clone of me. But then that's getting into what is a soul. I don't know what a soul is. I just know that when I got kicked out of my body, I was a ghost. And my body is still a part of me, as far as I'm concerned. By the way, Victor really sailed and was on water. Because he fell asleep in a boat. Because he was getting rid of the parts of the dead waifu. Do we even have souls? All I know, like I said, is I was a ghost when I didn't have a body. Therefore, I think I believe in a soul at this point. But other than that, I'm not sure. What custom the English? I can try my Irish accent, but it's not going to go very well. What custom the English may... No, I'm not even going to go for it. I'm not even going to go for it. But the custom of the Irish... But it's the custom of the Irish to hate villains. While the strange dialogue continued, I perceived the crowd rapidly increase. Their faces expressed a mix of curiosity and anger, which annoyed and, in some degree, alarmed me. I inquired the way to the inn, but no one replied. I then moved forward, and a murmuring arose from the crowd as they followed and surrounded me, when an ill-looking man approached, tapped me on the shoulder, and said, "Come, sir, you must follow me to Mr. Kerwin's and give an account of yourself." Well, I didn't mean Pac-Man. Yeah, that would have been bad. Soul is a concept separate two separate mechanical functions of a body are consciousness in its core. That's the theory. A mere theory trying to perceive the world and ourselves. How would Briny even stream as a pair of eyes? With great difficulty. I wouldn't have any hands. At least with the ghost, I could, like, blob my way around the keyboard. It kind of worked. We're still trying to figure out consciousness, so let's just take a potential answer and use it to write a good story. Yeah! That's all we need. Who is Mr. Kerwin? Why am I to give an account of myself? Is this not a free country? Aye, sir. Free enough for honest folks. Mr. Kerwin is a magistrate, and you are to give an account of the death of a gentleman who was found murdered here last night. This answer startled me, but I presently recovered myself. I was innocent. That I could easily be proved. Accordingly, I followed my conductor in silence, and was led to one of the best houses in town. I was ready to sink in fatigue and hunger, but being surrounded by a crowd, I thought it politic to rouse all my strength, that no physical debility might be constructed in apprehension or conscious guilt. Little did I expect the calamity that was a few moments to overwhelm me and extinguish in horror and despair all fear of ignominy or death. I must pause here, for it requires all my fortitude to recall the memory of the frightful events which I am about to relate in proper detail to my recollection. Consciousness, work in progress. Yeah! Where would I make law suggestions? General suggest. I would just go into the suggestion box. It's an overall suggestion box. It doesn't have to be suggestions for streams or technical things. You can do it for law as well if you want. I'm happy for you to go. Innocent, yeah. But if you were a pair of eyes, every detail and emotion made which we could notice tenfold. I mean, I could stream just really, really zoomed in, so you could just see my eyes. Then everything would be tenfold. Actually, I don't think I can get that close. We can try, though. Okay, that's as close as I can get. Tenfold! Tenfold! Big. Any excuse to get big on the street. Oh. You want New Luck to have a side story? Well, I don't really have time to write one, so... With a big box hat. Okay, shall we do it? Shall we see... Clerval's probably dead, isn't he? I'm not sure how I feel about this. I wish you were able to do... a breathing effect on the screen, like a you mean like when it's cold outside and you breathe on the screen, it goes I see. I could look into something like that. That's a good idea. Fine, I'll write one and beg for your approval. Go for it. You do what you want, Void. Have fun. That's all we need. Be creative and have fun. And draw a smiley on it. Yes. Noko-chan, did you know there's an island off Scotland called St. Kilda? And nobody knows who St. Kilda is. That is interesting. Okay. Clerval's probably dead. Let's go suffer this, shall we? I was soon introduced to the presence of the magistrate, an old benevolent man with calm and mild manners. He looked upon me, however, with some degree of severity, and then turning towards my conductors, he asked who appeared as witness on this occasion. About half a dozen men came forward, and one being selected by the magistrate, he disposed that he had been fishing the night before with his son and brother-in-law, Daniel Nugent, when, about 10 o'clock, they observed a strong northerly blast rising, and then accordingly pulled in for port. It was very dark. It was a very dark night, and as the moon had not yet risen, they did not land at the harbour, but, as they had been accustomed at a creek about 2 miles below, he walked on first, carrying a part of the fishing tackle, and his companions followed him at some distance. As he was proceeding along the sands, he struck his foot against something, and fell at his length on the ground. His companions came up to assist him, and by the light of their lantern, they found that he had fallen on the body of a man, who was to all appearance dead. Their first suspicion was that the corpse of some person who had been drowned was thrown on shore by the waves, but on examination they found the clothes were not wet, even that the body was not even cold. They instantly carried it to the cottage of an old woman near the spot and endeavourment, but in vain, to restore it to life. It appeared to be a handsome young man, about 25 years of age. He had apparently been strangled, for there was no sign of any violence except black marks of fingers on his neck. Someone died, and I suspect it to be Clerval, but I don't know yet. We haven't gotten to the identification yet. The first part of this disposition did not in the least interest me, but when the mark of the fingers was mentioned, I remembered the murder of my brother, and felt extremely agitated. My limbs trembled, and a mist came over my eyes, which obliged me to lean on a chair for support. The magistrate observed me with a keen eye, and of course drew an unfavourable augury from my manner. The son confirmed his father's account, but when Daniel Nugent was called, he swore positively that just before the fall of his companion he saw a boat with a single man in it at a short distance from the shore, and had, as far as he could judge by the light of a few stars, it was the same boat in which I had just landed. A woman disposed that she lived near the beach, and was standing at the door of her cottage, waiting for the return of the fisherman, but about an hour before she heard the discovery of the body, when she saw a boat with only one man in it push off from part of the shore, where the corpse was found afterwards. Another woman confirmed the account of the fisherman having brought the body to her house. It was not cold. They put it to bed and rubbed it, and Daniel went to the town for the apothecary, but life was quite gone. Several other men were examined concerning my landing, and they agreed that, with the strong north wind that was arisen during the night, it was very probable that I had beaten about for many hours, and been obliged to return to nearly the same spot from which I departed. Besides, they observed that it appeared that I had brought the body from another place, and it was likely that I did not appear to know the shore. I might have put into the harbour ignorant of the distance of the town from where the place I had deposited the corpse. Mr. Kirwin, on hearing the evidence, desired that I should be taken into the room where the body lay for interment, that it might be observed what effect the sight would produce upon me. This idea was probably suggested by the extreme agitation I had exhibited when the mode of the murder had been described. I was accordingly conducted by the magistrate and several other persons to the inn. I could not help being struck by the strange coincidences that had taken place during this eventful night. But knowing that I had been conversing with several persons in this island, and I had inhabited about the time that the body had been found, I was perfectly tranquil as to the consequences of the affair. But the body was not wet and still warm. How could he have smuggled it on the shore? Unless he killed him in the boat and then basically just yeeted him out of the boat. You have to remember, our monster is very strong. He might have been very newly dead, because dead bodies don't instantly go cold. That is most likely that he was just very recently murdered. So recently that they saw the monster not too far from shore, because he hadn't even gotten away yet. If he yeeted him out of the boat, then why is the body not wet? Because he yeeted it from a dry boat to a dry shore. Oh no, he has the strength of definitely more than 10 brownies, because this brownie does not have much strength. This brownie has noodles for arms and cannot eat anyone anywhere. Except for maybe babies. But I don't really want to try. I entered the room where the corpse lay, and was led up to the coffin. How can I describe my sensations on beholding it? I feel yet parched with horror, nor can I reflect on that terrible moment without shuddering and agony. The examination, the presence of the magistrate and the witness passed like a dream from my memory, when I saw the lifeless corpse of Henry Clerval stretched before me. I gasped for breath, and throwing myself on the body, I exclaimed, "Have my murderous machinations deprived you also, my dearest Henry, of life? Two I have already destroyed. Other victims await their destiny, but you, Clerval, my friend, my benefactor." The human frame could no longer support the agonies that I endured. I was carried out of the room in strong convulsions. A fever succeeded this. I lay for 2 months on the point of death. My ravings, as I afterward heard, were frightful. I called myself the murderer of William, of Justine, and of Clerval. Sometimes I entreated my attendants to assist me in the destruction of the fiend by whom I was tormented. And at others I felt the fingers of the monster already grasping my neck, and screamed aloud with agony and terror. Fortunately, as I spoke in my native language, Mr. Kerwin alone understood me, but my gestures and bitter cries were sufficient to affright the other witnesses. Why did I not die? More miserable than man ever was before. Why did I not sink into forgetfulness and rest? Death snatches away many blooming children, the only hopes of their doting parents. Now many brides and youthful lovers have been one day in the bloom of health and hope, and the next a prey for worms and the decay of the tomb. Of what materials was I made that I could thus resist so many shocks, which, like the turning of the wheel, continually renewed my torture? But I was doomed to live. In 2 months found myself awaking from a dream, in a prison stretched on a wretched bed, surrounded by gallowers, turnkeys, bolts, and all the miserable apparatus of a dungeon. It was morning. I remember when I thus awoke to understanding. I had forgotten the particulars of what had happened, and only felt as if some great misfortune had suddenly overwhelmed me. But when I looked around and saw the barred windows and the squalidness of the room in which I was, all flashed across my memory, and I groaned bitterly. The sound disturbed an old woman who was sleeping in a chair beside me. She was a hired nurse, the wife of one of the turnkeys, and her countenance expressed all those bad qualities which often characterize that class. The lines of her face were hard and rude, like that of a person accustomed to see without sympathy in the sights of misery. Her tone expressed her entire indifference. She addressed me in English, and the voice struck me as one that I had heard during my sufferings. "Are you better now, sir?" said she. I replied in the same language, with a feeble voice. "I believe I am. But if it be all true, if indeed I did not dream, I am sorry that I am still alive to feel this misery and horror." What would happen if he still made a wife? Unknown. I used to react this way when I had a math test in high school. As smart as this guy was, why didn't he just clone someone? That's because that's not what he could do. Honestly crazy how cloning is already possible, but obviously illegal. As it should be. Let's not go into that. It's too complicated. If I was threatened by a 3-meter super strong, somehow living angry corpse, I would be scared, pissed and shitless to defy him. Yeah, honestly, Victor's got a heck of a backbone to actually say no to that guy, especially when not only is he threatening Victor himself, he's threatening, literally everything he holds dear, not just himself. I know cloning with animals is possible and okay, but cloning human is unethical and illegal. Yes, it is incredibly unethical and illegal. Because, I don't know, it's just too complicated. It's too complicated. It's too many moral things to consider. I just realized I was too far into my box. "For that matter," replied the old woman, "if you mean about the gentleman you murdered, I believe that it were better for both of you if you were dead, for I fancy it will go hard with you. However, that's none of my business. I am set to nurse you and get you well. I do my duty with a safe conscience. If it were well, if everyone did the same." I turned with loathing from the woman who could utter so unfeeling a speech to a person just saved on the very edge of death. But I felt languid and unable to reflect on all that had passed. The whole series of my life appeared to me as a dream. I sometimes doubted if indeed it were all true, for it never presented itself to my mind with the force of reality. Imagine being a clown. 10 out of 10. Aren't we all slightly mutated clones of our ancestors? Correct! In a way. I mean, is it? With many things, there's sort of that idea, like, especially with books and things, that all the ideas are used up and all the combinations of notes and music are used up and things like that. Do you think DNA is the same? Have we used up all combinations of DNA and we're all technically a clone of someone somewhere? Imagine being a puffin muffin. They think they're human. Chosen Sky reference. The whole series of my life appeared wrong to me as a dream. Did Victor look at a lamp wrong? Maybe. We are fusions, not clones, technically. DNA just mutates and multiples. Oh, okay, so DNA is endless. Yeah, exactly. Like library bubble, blah, 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 blah. There's got to be a limit, right? There's a limit to everything, to be fair. So there's got to be a limit to human DNA, too, and the amount of combinations we can get with it. But who knows? We are all mutants. Yes, we're all mutants of two people. It's the basics. The basics are basics. The whole series of my life appeared to me as a dream. I sometimes doubted if it were indeed true, but never presented itself with the force of reality. As the images that floated before me became more distinct, I grew feverish. A darkness pressed around me. No one was near me who soothed me with the gentle voice of love. No dear hand supported me. The physician who came and prescribed medicines, and the old woman prepared them for me, but utter carelessness was visible in the first, and the expression of brutality was strongly marked in the visage of the second, who could be interested in the fate of a murderer, but the hangman who was to gain his fee. So Bryony's predecessor in 4023 will be much better, Bryony. They would be crying Aerosmith. Why would they cry so much? Because we are still mostly influenced by our life experiences and not the gene pool. Matters so less. The reason to make clones is it's possible to do it. So we have to do it regardless. No. That's how we get Frankensteins. That's how we get victors. Victors are bad. We don't want to be victors. Don't be a victor. These were my first reflections, but I soon learned that Mr. Kerwin had shown me extreme kindness. He had caused the best room in the prison to be prepared for me. Wretched indeed was the best. And it was he who had provided the physician and a nurse. It is true he seldom came to see me, for although he ardently desired to relieve the sufferings of every human creature, he did not wish to be present at the agonies and miserable ravings of a murderer. He came, therefore, sometimes to see that I was not neglected, but his visits were short and with long intervals. But Victor is a cool name, especially if it's with a K. That's true. Mary Sherry literally warned us. Yes, she knows. Far cry in Heroes. So 1,000 clones will be individuals as 1,000 normal people. I think so. I think clones would be individual people in a way, because you could. It's like twins are individual people. Identical twins are technically clones, but like they're individual people. So I would think clones should technically class as individual people. Wait till you roll a shiny clone. Shiny Briny! Woo! Yeah, Shiny Briny has red hair, I think. Twins are clones? Who's the clone of who? Whoever's the first twin. But gene modification to achieve some alterations in mind or physical characteristics. Oh god, no, let's not open that can of worms, Mr. Max. Let's not open that can of worms. I was reading, we've actually read the preview of a book that touches on that. It's a post-apocalyptic LGBT book. And in this post-apocalyptic world, they've taken to gene therapy and splicing and stuff to try and boost the population. But what they didn't tell people is that the people were paying for this, and then they were actually kind of killing off some of the kids to control population growth, because they can't actually afford to have that many people being born, because they have limited resources due to being, post-apocalyptic. So yeah, it was very good. I highly suggest that. It was New Era, I believe, by Shari Sakurai. It's a very good series. It's got 3 books so far, and if you're into a bit of enemies to lovers, and you want some gay boys, and you want a main character who's basically Superman, but with the powers of Captain America rather than being super duper man, but he has like the personality of Superman and in being a very lovely good boy. Post-apocalyptic LGBT book sounds like something one of my friends would be interested. One of my friends would write. Yeah, it's very good. Highly suggest it. Calling dibs on shiny briny in a beast ball. Well, one day, while I was gradually recovering, I was seated in a chair, my eyes half open and my cheeks livid like those in death. I was overcome by gloom and misery, and often reflected I had better seek death than desire to remain in a world which to me was replete with wretchedness. At one time I considered whether I should declare myself guilty and suffer the penalty of the law, less innocent than poor Justine had been. Such were my thoughts when the door of my apartment was opened, and Mr. Kerwin entered. His countenance expressed sympathy and compassion. He drew a chair close to mine and addressed me in French. I fear that this place is shocking to you. I cannot do anything to make you more comfortable. I thank you, but all that you mention is nothing to me. On the whole earth there is no comfort which I am capable of receiving. I know that the sympathy of a stranger can be but of little relief to one borne down as you are by so strange misfortune. But you will, I hope, soon quit this melancholy abode, for doubtless evidence can easily be brought to free you from this criminal charge. Bryony, if you can become twice as smart, strong, and experienced immediately, would you take such a chance? I mean, are there downsides? This sounds like a deal with the devil. I would doubt this entirely. I'm going to press X. Doubt. Press X to doubt. Will Victor distort? Soon, maybe. He actually reminds me of the creator of Thingy with his skills. Yes. Yeah, that's a very similar thing, that's for sure. Except they didn't abandon that. Downside, you can only eat plastic. Honestly, that would be great. I'd go for a swim, and then I'd eat all the plastic in the ocean. Yes! Let's go be doubly strong and whatever it is you say. Smart, strong, and experienced immediately. And then I'll start taking up scuba diving and eating plastic in the ocean. Yeah! It'll be nice and salt flavored too. Mr. Cohen is honestly my favourite minor character because out of everyone, he's the only person willing to be kind and show compassion to Victor when everyone else sees the murderer. That's cute. I would like a Bryony that's 100 times stronger so she can throw me at things in the sky. That's so random, Void. Because I wonder how much of my personality would change if I became twice as intelligent, strong, and experienced. It's the intelligence that does it, isn't it, really? Like, the strength and speed, I don't know if that would change you. That maybe you'd get a bit cocky, but I don't know how much the intelligence would change a person, you know? Because that's such a mental capacity thing. It's more brain affecting than the rest of those things, so I don't know. If you think about this opportunity of improvement, aren't you afraid that the original you might die, becoming a totally another person in an instant? No! It's still me. I mean, no, I don't see how it would be a different person. Honestly, I would have loved this like 10 years ago. Think of all those buffs will realize that the human body can process plastic. Yeah. And it's actually edible plastic, so that couldn't turn itself upside down on the negative. I'd like to become twice as intelligent, but 0 multiplied by 0 is still 0. Oof. Oof, normal size phantom. Well, actually, no, you'll become a double size phantom at least. You'll become a large phantom. You can just eat normal food because microplastics are basically in everything anyway. True! Very true. But it'd be great. Like my boyfriend could buy a food and then I'd be like, bro, can I eat the wrapper? That chocolate wrapper looks mighty tasty. No, I wouldn't be afraid that would turn me into a different person. You would think differently, act differently. You rethink all your memories under different But that's exactly what I do now. That's what experience does to you in general. What you thought was success become... No, that's not how it works. That's not how experience works. At all. If anything, I look back on some things that I thought were failures and actually kind of see them as successes. I cut myself a lot more slack now than I ever did when I was younger. And that's what that intelligence and experience would do. You do this, but much slower. You changing part of your mind one by one. I think what you're asking and what you're insinuating by these things aren't the same. I don't know. I can't see it changing me that much. I really can't. I think maybe... No, Maxie. We're not changing my body part by part, though, are you? You just said everything would be doubled, and I would have the same body, same mind, just better. I see that as a very different thing. I get the theory you're putting out, Mr. Max. I've heard of this theory many a time, and if I was physically replacing my body with, say, robotic parts and stuff, then I would be kind of sad, but I wouldn't want to change everything. But if it's what you were kind of bringing to me, kind of thought more of a metaphorical thing rather than a physical thing. Like, I don't want to be doubled in height or anything like that. I like being small. Hey, can we get back to Facebook? Sorry, yeah. We're getting really distracted in the moral dilemmas here. Let's go back to the plot. Sorry about that. But anyway, metaphorical. No, we're not getting into it. We're not getting into it. It's okay, Mr. Max, no worries. That is my least concern. I am, by a course of strange events, become the most miserable of mortals, persecuted and tortured as I am, and have been. Can death be any evil to me? I'd love to see it double in height. No more working for Santa Claus this winter. Nothing, indeed, could be more unfortunate and agonizing than the strange chances that have lately occurred. You were thrown by some surprising incident on this shore, renowned for its hospitality, seized immediately and charged with murder. The first sight that was presented to your eyes was the body of your friend, murdered in so incountable a manner, and placed, as it were, by some fiend across your path. As Mr. Cohen said this, notwithstanding the agitation I endured on this retrospect of my sufferings, I also felt considerable surprise at the knowledge he seemed to possess concerning me. I suppose some astonishment was exhibited in my countenance, for Mr. Kerwin hastened to say, "Immediately upon your being taken ill, all the papers that were on your person were brought to me, and I examined them that I might discover some trace by which I could send your relations an account of your misfortune and illness. I found several letters, and among the others, one which I discovered from its concernment to be from your father. I instantly wrote to Geneva. Nearly 2 months have elapsed since the departure of my letter, but you are ill. Even now you tremble and are unfit for agitation of any kind." The thing I would love doubled the most would be Bridie streams. Aw, guys. You're so cute. I would love to double my streams for you too. But unfortunately I have a job now. This suspense is 1,000 times worse than the most horrible event. Tell me what new scene of death has been acted, and whose murder I am now to lament. Your family is perfectly well, said Mr. Kerwin with gentleness, and someone, a friend, is come to visit you. I know not by what chain of thought the idea presented itself, but it instantly darted to my mind that the murderer had come back to mock my misery and taunt me with the death of Clerval, as a new incitement for me to comply to his hellish desires. But my hand before my eyes cried out in agony, "Oh, take him away! I cannot see him! For God's sake, do not let him enter!" Mr. Kerwin regarded me with a troubled countenance. He could not help regarding my exclamations as presumptions of my guilt, and said in a rather serious tone, "I should have thought, young man, that the presence of your father would have been welcome instead of inspiring such violent repugnance." "My father!" I cried, while every feature in every muscle was relaxed from anguish to pleasure. "It is my father, indeed, come." "How kind, how very kind! But where is he? Why does he not hasten to me?" My change of manner surprised and pleased the magistrate. Perhaps he thought that my former explanation was a momentary return of delirium, and now he instantly resumed his former benevolence. He rose and quitted the room with my nurse, and in a moment my father entered. Nothing at this point could have given me greater pleasure than the arrival of my father. I stretched out my hand to him and cried, "Are you then safe? And Elizabeth? And Ernest?" My father calmed me with assurance of their welfare, and endeavoured my dwelling on these subjects, so interesting to my heart, to raise my desponding spirits. But he soon felt that a prison cannot be the abode of cheerfulness. "What a place is this that you inhabit, my son?" he said, looking mournfully at the barred windows and wretched appearance of the room. "You travel to seek happiness, but a fatality seems to pursue you. And poor Clerval." Did you say if I gave you enough money, you quit your job? If I made enough money, I'd quit my job, but I'd rather not rely on a single fan to do that. I'd rather hopefully be making it through, general merch purchases and adverts and books and all the other things I'm working on. Hey Maxima, have you considered joining the Discord? It's a better place to discuss those things. Yes, it would actually, yeah. It would be better than trying to distract on the stream too much. I think I will have the stream. Yeah, that's fair. The name of my unfortunate and murdered friend was an agitation too great to be endured by my weak state. I shed tears. Alas, yes, my father, replied I. Some destiny of the most horrible kind hangs over me, and I must live to fulfill it, or surely I should have died on the coffin of Henry. I can't help but find it kind of ironic that in this scene Victor's father seems to be super caring and supportive, yet Victor himself is a horrible parental figure to the monster. Yeah, exactly. Like, nothing about Vic. I think one of the things I like about this book so far is that most of the time when someone does something like Victor and they make something horrible, things like that, it's because they have such a horrible backstory. But Victor has a lovely family, and they're all just nice and happy, and he had a wonderful childhood. Nothing, no reason, no twisted part inside him. He just did science, and things happened. He's just a dude, and shit happened. Yeah, Victor has a great background, but himself is just a terrible person. Exactly! B12, exactly. Correct. We were not allowed to converse for any length of time, for the precarious state of my health rendered every precaution necessary that could ensure tranquillity. Mr. Cohen came in and insisted that my strength should not be exhausted by too much exertion. But the appearance of my father was to me like that of my good angel, and I gradually recovered my health. As my sickness quitted me, I was absorbed by a gloomy and black melancholy that nothing could dissipate. The image of Clerval was forever before me, ghastly and murdered. More than once the agitation into which these reflections threw me made my friends dread a dangerous relapse. Alas, why did they preserve so miserable and detested a life? It was surely that I might fulfill my destiny, which is now drawing to a close. Soon, oh, very soon, will death extinguish these throbbings and relieve me from the mighty weight of anguish that bears me to the dust, and in excruciating the award of justice, I shall also sink to rest. Then the appearance of death was distant, although the wish was ever present in my thoughts, and I often sat for hours motionless and speechless, wishing for some mighty resolution that might bury me and my destroyer in its ruins. The season of Ases approached. I had already been 3 months in prison, and although I was still weak and in continual danger of relapse, I was obliged to travel nearly 100 miles to the country town where the court was held. Mr. Cohen charged himself with every care of collecting witnesses and arranging my defence. I was spared the disgrace of appearing publicly as a criminal, as the case was not brought before the court that decides on life and death. The grand jury rejected the bill, on its being proved that I was on the Onki Islands at an hour the body of my friend was found, and a fortnight after my removal I was liberated from prison. Hard times create strong people create good times, and good times create weak people. Maybe that is what happened. Maybe. Whoa, literally no villain has reason to make a monster. Mr. Cohen is second best boy. Someone's gotta be a good boy when Clerval leaves. When Clerval leaves. Sad. My father was enraptured on finding me freed from the vexations of a criminal charge, and I was again allowed to breathe the fresh atmosphere, and permitted to return to my native country. I did not participate in these feelings, for to me the walls of the dungeon or a palace were alike hateful. The cup of life was poisoned forever, and although the sun shone upon me, as upon happy and gay in heart, I saw around me nothing but dense and frightful darkness. Penetrated by no light, but the glimmer of two eyes that glared upon me. Sometimes they were the expressive eyes of Henry, languish in death, the dark orbs nearly covered by the lids, and the long black lashes that fringed them. Sometimes it was the watery, clouded eyes of the monster. And as I first saw them in my chamber in Ingolstadt, my father tried to awaken in me the feelings of affection. He talked of Geneva, which I should soon visit, of Elizabeth and Ernest. But these words only drew deep groans from me. Sometimes, indeed, I felt a wish for happiness, and though with melancholy delight of my beloved cousin, or longed with a devouring Madeleine du Pas to see once more the blue lake and rapid Rione that had been so dear to me in early childhood. But my general state of feeling was a torpor, in which a prison was welcome and residence as the divine scene in nature. And these fits were seldom interrupted by the paroxysms of anguish and despair. At these moments I often endeavoured to put an end to the existence I loathed, and it required unceasing attendance and vigilance to restrain me from committing some dreadful acts of violence. Yet one duty remained to me, the recollection of which finally triumphed over my selfish despair. It was necessary that I should return without delay to Geneva, there to watch over the lives of those I so fondly loved, and lie in wait for the murderer, that if any chance led me to the place of his concealment, or if he dared again to blast me by his presence, I might, with unfailing aim, put an end to the existence of the monstrous image which I endured with the mockery of a soul still more monstrous. My father still desired to delay our departure, fearful that I could not sustain the fatigues of a journey, for I was a shattered wreck, the shadow of a human being. My strength was gone. I was a mere skeleton, and fever night and day preyed upon my wasted frame. That'd be so hilarious. The monster don't stalk Victor, but then went to do his business and Victor's just imagining things. Yeah, he just left. And he just knows that, like, he said that one thing about his wedding and he knows he's gonna fuck with Victor for the rest of his life. You're approaching the end of the stream, I'm gonna go into lurk mode. Fair enough, Lucas, you chill out. You chill out. I'm just gonna quickly check how many pages. Oh, we haven't got too many pages to the end of the chapter, so we can actually for once, end on the end of a chapter for once in our lives. Still, as I urged our leaving Ireland with such inadequate and impatience, my father thought it best to yield. We took our passage aboard a vessel bound for Havre de Grace, and sailed with a fair wind from the Irish shores. It was midnight. I lay on the deck looking at the stars, listening to the dashing of the waves. I hailed the darkness that shut Ireland from my sight, and my pulse beat with a feverish joy, when I reflected that I should soon see Geneva. I know why the monster's falling around. He wants his autograph. Ugh. The past appeared to me in the light of a frightful dream, yet the vessel in which I was, the wind that blew me from the detested shore of Ireland, and the sea which surrounded me told me too forcibly that I was deceived by no vision, and that Clerval, my friend and dearest companion, had fallen a victim to me and the monster of my creation. I repassed in memory my whole life, my quiet happiness while residing with my family in Geneva, the death of my mother, and my departure for Ingolstadt. I remembered shuddering the mad enthusiasm that hurried me on to the creation of my hideous enemy. I called to mind the night in which he first lived. I wasn't able to pursue the train of thought, 1,000 feelings pressing upon me, and I wept bitterly. Ever since my recovery from the fever, I had been in the custom of talking every night a small quantity of taking, not talking. For it was by means of this drug only that I was enabled to gain the rest necessary for the preservation of life. Oppressed by the recollection of my various misfortunes, I now swallowed double my usual quantity, and soon slept profoundly. But sleep did not afford me respite from thought and misery. My dreams presented 1,000 objects that scared me. Towards morning I possessed my kind of nightmare. I felt the fiend's grasp in my neck, and could not free myself from it. Groans and cries rang in my ears. My father, who was watching over me, perceiving my recklessness, awoke me. The dashing waves are around, the cloudless sky above. The fiend was not here. A sense of security, a feeling that a truce was established between the present hour and the irresistible, disastrous future imparted to me a kind of calm forgetfulness, of which a human mind is, by its stature, peculiarly susceptible. And that'll be it for today. Woo! Chapter 22. And we're nearly 80%. This could still take 2 streams, though. This is such a chunky book compared to what I normally read. But it's been very good. I've very much enjoyed it so far. And it looks like we're getting up to what could be a climax when he gets home. And he's going to have to try to protect his family from the monster. It's like he's self-pitying himself without realizing it was his fault. You can self-pity yourself when you make your own mistakes. It could still be your fault, but you can still have self-pity. I just want to say the Kenneth Branagh film is worth watching just to see Robert De Niro as the monster. I'll take a look. I don't want to get around to it, but I'll definitely put it on my list for things to watch. It sounds good. And with that giant yawn, it is time to end the stream. Thank you, everyone in chat. Thank you, anyone who lurked, and thank you to anyone who watches the VOD. If you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. We are, in fact, 16 away from 1K. 1K subs! How bonkers is that? And I have some really cool bits of merch and a free bit of merch as well for when we hit 1K. That'll be fun. And the general reward was reading some embarrassing Sonic fanfiction from my youth. Because suffering is content. This was awesome. Glad you enjoyed it, Naka-chan. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. If you'd like to support me in any other way, there are lots and lots of links in the description to the Patreon, to the Kofi, to the Etsy, and to the Discord. Click all of them. They're all good. They take you to all wonderful places. Yes, yes, yes. Can you send a new Discord link? I'll send a different Discord link as well, just in case that one doesn't work, because it's always stupid. I don't know why. It's so annoying. Embarrassing fanfiction sold. Yeah. Because suffering is content. Therefore, That was always my 1001. It won't be the super original version. I've said this before, because the super duper original version is probably in my parents' attic. But you have the first ever digital version. Yeah, you got 2 Discord links there. You can pick whichever one you want. Thanks for the stream. Wonderful. Okie dokie. And with that, I don't think I have anything else to tell you. My schedule's already up for next week. So there'll be Minecraft tomorrow. And then some Minecraft. And then on Friday, I'm going to do a hand cam stream. I have a majestic horse, a Gumpler horse to build for my Gumpler King Arthur. So he can have a majestic steed. And I look forward to making that. But anyway, that's it for today. I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Brandy Rose Smith, live from the Forbidden Library. Goodbye.